All right, this is the exercise from the homework dealing with the allowance method, okay, the allowance method. And this is the one that provides the company with good matching. The allowance method is the one that is recommended by generally accepted accounting principles. This is the method that is more complex. This is the method that at the end of every year the accountant has to record an adjusting entry where they debit or increase bad debt expense based on an amount to record the expense that year. Therefore, when they have customers that default, they don't have to record the expense, but what they do is they empty the bucket called allowance. Okay, so please go over the presentation that I created for you dealing with the allowance method and just going over possible questions on the final exam. Allowance method is not recommended by GAAP. Allowance method is more complex. Allowance method has an allowance account. Allowance method tries to match the revenues and expenses within the same year. Okay, and then the allowance method, this specific problem is not asking you to record the adjusting entry that is required with this method at the end of the year. This problem is telling you the company uses the allowance method. Last year, December 31st, they recorded bad debt expense and they credited the account allowance for doubtful accounts. So they fill the bucket called allowance. And now the new year, you are March 17th, and you just identify one customer of an account, a customer an account that is defaulting. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do it here first, and then I'll use this entry, but I'll do it here. I'm going to say, okay, I am going to write off the 4,440. Okay, this is the amount that Keith is not paying in the 2010. So actually, let me just do the 2010 first. I'm going to debit cash for the amount that he is paying, 2010, and then I'm going to credit account receivable, because that's the amount that we did collect. Okay, 2010. Okay, but now I need to do the other entry where the amount that I'm not collecting, I need to reduce the bucket called allowance for doubtful accounts. Remember, this is the account doubtful accounts. Okay, that this is the account that I set up last year when you're using the allowance method, that you credited the account, okay, for a big lump sum, and now that you're identifying a customer that is not paying, you're emptying the bucket. You're debiting the allowance for 2010, and we're going to credit account receivable. Okay, so this is how I would do it. Sorry, this is how I would do it. And again, the amount is not 2000, yeah, 2010. I'm sorry, the amount is 4,440. Sorry about that. The amount is 4,040. So 4,440. 4,440. And account receivable 4,440. Okay. So here, if we want to do it using one entry, I'm going to debit cash for 2010. I'm going to debit the allowance account, allowance for doubtful accounts, 4,440. And then the credit here will go to account receivable. And not account payable, of course not, account receivable. Okay, so the sum of this will be what? $6,450, I guess, right? Okay, perfect. All right, so what you see here, this entry is exactly the same as this entry that you see here. The only thing is that here I did two separate entries, and then here is just one compound entry. Okay. Again, when we do this, keep this in mind. Okay. When we're recording this entry, we're writing off this customer Keith for 4,440 that apparently he's not paying us. So on the exam, and I think it's important for you to realize that when we use the allowance method and we're writing off this customer 4,440 and we're removing 4,440 from the account receivable, this entry right here, this is what we call the write-off. So when we're writing off with this allowance method, we're not affecting the income statement like we did when we were using the direct method. So keep that in mind. The write-off using the allowance method, we're not reducing income. We're not affecting the income statement. And that's why this method is better with matching, because with this method, the bad debt expense was recorded at the end of the year, which, by the way, this question is not asking anything about the adjusting entry. This is just asking for the write-off. What do you do when you need to remove a receivable because it's not paying? Okay? So hopefully, if you have any questions, you need to let me know. And again, this down here is for the exam. You don't need to know this because in real life, by the time you write this off, it's because you're not thinking of getting that money back. For homework purposes, they tell you, okay, what happens if Keith somehow decides to pay you back? So if he does pay you back, I'm going to put it back on the account receivable, 4,440. Okay, and I'm going to credit the allowance. So again, I'm simply reversing this entry. That's why I like doing it in two separate accounts instead of one entry, in two entries instead of one. So 4,440. And then this is not the end. I need to show that I finally have the cash, that he did pay me. So I'm going to increase cash, debit cash 4,440, and I'm going to credit account receivable. Okay, so once again, just like in the previous problem that I did for you, if we were to look at the account receivable, you had a debit for 4,440 and a credit for 4,440, and then you had another debit for 4,440 right here, and then another credit for 4,440. So the account receivable key is a 0 at the end. And the same thing with the allowance account. The allowance, we debited the account for 4,440, but then we credited. So that debit and that credit, at least for this customer, is 0. Okay, and then you end up with simply cash and fees earned revenue. Okay, so in other words, I hope you realize that at the end, this guy actually paid the whole thing. At the end, he actually paid the 6,450. Because here, look, 4,440 and the cash 2010, cash and cash, he did eventually pay 6,450. It took time, but at the end, by July 29th, he did pay. And the accounting records, they need to show that. So again, if you have any questions, just let me know, and I hope this was helpful. Thank you. Oh, let's check the work. Yeah. Just making sure that this is correct. Okay, so everything is correct. Okay, thank you.